All right, hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name's Brogan, and today we are back for another trading stream. So far so good, I think. Obviously, give a quick rundown. Let me start the timer, okay? I'm not making that mistake. Last time I was 5 minutes late on it. I'm gonna stick to it. I'm professional. Today's a professional stream, okay? So far so good, I think. If you weren't there last stream, we'd had obviously some predictions and some definitely positive predictions, especially on syrup, but pretty negative across the board. And I think we've done pretty well in that. Obviously, going through that in a second. Let me alt tab to quit market cap. There we go. So yeah, I'm pretty happy so far with how the market is. Hopefully, you guys have had a great day nonetheless. Hopefully, you will have a great day if it is in the morning. Obviously, time zones and whatnot. And yeah, I'm not gonna waste time. Genuinely, 20 seconds in, whatever it is. Going straight into it. Bitcoin 119151. So basically what's happened, I have looked at the chart beforehand. We've kind of had that retracement. We've come to a support point on the 1 hour, and obviously we've come back upwards again. I will obviously be going through it today. There's either two streams. There's normally streams where I go through things I've already talked about last stream. Obviously there's streams where we kind of focus more on things which are happening in the future. So today will be definitely one of the streams where going through some things we've already talked about, because again, you know, last stream, Tuesday anyway, we did talk about some stuff, and obviously we will give some new predictions anyway. So Ethereum is back up again, 3,750. Again, I still think it's pretty strong, regardless of what I was saying on Tuesday. Obviously, we did have that move. We were having the move, moves down. We did find support. We have come back upwards again, but we are still not completely going upwards. Again, we'll get into the charts in a second. And Solana 189, we did talk about that retracement from 19 whatever it was, 200-ish. I can't remember exactly what price it was. We did talk about a retracement. I was talking about ranging between 186 to 191, I think it was, on the higher end. I didn't want to be negative on Solana because obviously we were still pumping. I didn't want to be negative on Tuesday, but we were talking about the two ranges we had below us, and we have seemingly come to these areas. So again, not really too surprised anyway with most of these moves, but it does look like we're even though we've had a move down, I didn't really want us to have too much of a move down. Again, we don't really have a lot above us of resistance. I don't believe too much anymore anyway. So again, we will get into it in a second, because I do want to go to 24-hour percentages to see what's going on in the market, what coins are pumping currently. I just want to see if there's any names I recognize. I really miss Thorchain. I do. If you are a commenter to the channel and have been here for a while, you will remember the annoyance I had with Thorchain. I don't think it's in relativeness anymore. I don't think it's with us, which is unfortunate to see. But I do want to actually laugh at Fartcoin, because again, I do not like those coins. I have been meaning to look at Pump.Fun. I was supposed to look at Pump.Fun because obviously it came out literally the day or something before I did a stream, maybe Saturday I think it was. I can't remember exactly when it came out, or the coin got released. I have not looked at it once, and ever since its release, it's just been going down. So I don't really want to touch it. I don't really want to look at it. But obviously, if people want me to look at it, I will do that. Let me. There we go. Yeah. So anyway, not yapping. Let's move on. What I do want to do first, though, instead of normally do Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, I do want to look at syrup first, because we have done well. We have done really, really well. So if you weren't here on Tuesday, obviously I did talk about it as well on Wednesday, just like kind of talking about, oh yeah, I think we're going up on syrup regardless, but it wasn't a proper chart. It was mainly Tuesday when we were talking about us being basically back at it was here exactly Tuesday, basically being at 42 and just starting that move up. Obviously we had our support. If it goes to 4 hour, we did have our support back here, which we have used previously. Obviously we've come to this support area, and done our thing basically, whatever, and started to come up now anyway. We've had a massive move up. Obviously I think my main point I was saying on Tuesday was, I think we don't really have much above us, and I was mainly looking at the daily here. Again, we do have these highs if we go to the lower time frames, but we didn't have anything in our way in terms of resistance, which is what I was saying on Tuesday, up until we saw maybe some highs back up here about 58 cents. Obviously, if we go to the 4 hour and 1 hour, yes, we do have let me go to 4 actually. There we go. Yeah, we do have different periods here. Obviously we do have a few different high points here, especially with as we've come to this high, we can see we had a bit of resistance here with this gap. Obviously came down, had another gap here and whatnot, so we clearly had quite a good amount of sell, which should be above this high. Again, obviously if we see this move down, move back up, and massive dump downwards past this low, clearly this is going to be an interesting high we want to target, and we have done that. We've started to slow down a tiny bit. Not saying we're completely dumping now. I do want to look at it on the 1 hour. Obviously, you can see we're having a nice move up. And again, what's good about this move, it isn't a move which is, you know, such one which is unsustainable. It doesn't seem unsustainable. We have pretty good moves upwards, relative moves downwards. It's pretty relative on the way up. So it's not, you know, it's not a worrying move up. It's not like it's been 1 hour. It's been a singular candle. Obviously, on the daily, yes, we have had a one candle, but you know, we have these multiple times. You know, it's not something to worry. You know, I'm not worried about us having one candle, but I think if we really look at it on the 1 hour, look at the trend we've had, I'm really, you know, I'm happy with this move so far. We've moved pretty nicely. You know, we haven't moved irrationally. So again, like I'm going to talk about again, in terms of focus on these highs, again, even though yes, we did have, you know, 53.5 and whatnot, I think my definite main high to look at was definitely this 58.1. And I was talking about between 58 and 60, and basically 60 being my kind of focus area for syrup in the shorter term. I'm not saying we can't get above 66. I'm not saying we can't go higher and higher. But in terms of the relative move we've had with this whole sphere in between basically 22nd of July or 22nd of June till now, my main target was about 58 to 60 cent as we continue upwards. Because again, like I said, we talked about this last Wednesday, not this Wednesday, the one after, or one before even, being that this last move to about 40 cent was what I thought the pretty much last move down before we continue back upwards. Because obviously we saw this, I had this support back here. You know, obviously we had this last reversal. Obviously last candle before the move upwards had this block. Obviously we confirmed support here. We can see obviously we came to the midpoint of it, but you know, we had this massive pump, and it made sense because it makes sense why we came to these areas. Because again, it's like, if you have these massive moves, these unsustainable moves, yes, you will have these periods where you're continuing upwards and whatnot. But the faster you move up, the more price wants to kind of come to these areas. Because again, it's not like it's a sustainable, because this is a sustainable downtrend, you know, for example, where we have normal kind of moves downwards and then slight moves back upwards for retracement, and then move down, retracement, move down. And in this case, we had this massive retracement or massive expansion basically back upwards all the way to a new high at about 66 cents. So it's one of those things where it's like, price is not saying it's irrational to move like this, but price is definitely going to want to treat the price the same as it kind of came up with, in terms of there could be potential orders in these areas and want to retrace back down to rebalance and then continue back upwards. So it's one of those things again, being that we wanted to come down into this area and find and fulfill this and then continue higher. So again, even though we have been on downtrend in the 4 hour and obviously the daily as well, we have been in this move down. The general point being, we don't want to print past 59.5 cents. But obviously if we look at it on the flow kind of theory, where we have significant low or not significant low, but candle lows, we have definitely printed past these. So it made sense that we were in this downtrend for the time being. But obviously if we look at the latest move, if we do print on this daily anyway, we have definitely surpassed this previous high area, where I definitely think we're going to be starting to position ourselves in this uptrend now and continue back upwards. So you know, I think we're just going to be taking out all these highs and continuing upwards and taking out all these areas. So I think we're going to continue to do this on syrup, continue to move up over, you know, the next couple of days, whenever how long it's going to last for, whatever. Probably, you know, probably for quite a while. I would say quite a while. We're going to probably start our move upwards. But again, the move upwards has definitely been pretty rapid. But I think if you really kind of just look at it, obviously we can have moves where we have massive spikes upwards and then not respectable retracements. Again, it depends on what the market situation is. For example, in this case, it's like we did have a pretty big move upwards. I don't think it's relative to this. This is definitely its own horse in terms of obviously these moves upwards. Yeah, they were pretty big, but we have a lot of wicks. You know, they're very small candle bodies. It wasn't like a rapid move upwards, quick succession. It was definitely a paced move. So obviously if we go to this area on like the 4 hour, let's say, we can clearly see we haven't really had a straight line upwards. It's definitely been very metered and very kind of limited in terms of its move upwards, and obviously we continue to do that. But if we look at it relative to this move, clearly it was just not the same. It's not the same move in the slightest, where in this case it's had this just massive move upwards, which hasn't had a single bit of retracement, hasn't had a single bit of confirmation that we're continuing this move or anything of the sort, however you want to say it. So it makes sense that we had this, you know, retracement, but I still don't think this has stopped us. I still think we're on this move upwards, especially if you look at the 4 hour. Yes, we've taken this high. On the daily we're still doing it. I still obviously the theory that we could retrace from here 8% immediately in the 4 hours, obviously I'm not saying it's not doable, but you know, I think we're probably most likely going to be praying above this high and continuing our uptrend. You know, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a bit more. I mean, but like I said, like I just said, to be fair, I'm looking on the daily here. The 1 hour is pretty good. I mean, we have had a nice move. If this looked like, hold on, let me get to it. If that move looked like this on the 1 hour, I would definitely be thinking we would have a deeper retracement as we continue upwards. But we're still doing pretty well. I don't really think it's that crazy of a move. I definitely think we continue this trend. And again, if you really look at it on the daily, apart from this move, which obviously we are potentially breaking out of and not confirming this, because again, watching a trend, bullish or bearish, based on candle bodies is a lot less secured, a lot less confirmed. It's not something which is guaranteed to happen. So if you really just look at it daily, despite this move below this candle body, and realistically just look at this fact that we are moving above this, we've just been in an uptrend the entire time. So to say that obviously this is just a normal deep retracement and that we can continue upwards obviously makes sense. I mean, I don't think we really have much. Again, apart from these highs, there wasn't anything. Again, I looked at this on Tuesday, especially on the daily anyway. We don't have anything apart from these highs up until we hit about 60 cent, which obviously was the main thing I was kind of focusing on Tuesday when we were looking at syrup. You know, it's just really 60 cents. So that's all I can really say about syrup. I just think we're continuing this move. I won't be surprised if we retrace, you know, a bit further, retrace to 49, 48 and a half, whatever, and then continue upwards and just have a normal uptrend from here and continue. Because again, like I said, there's not really much difficulty in terms of how we've printed or anything. I just think we're going to continue to these highs. Obviously, taking this high, maybe have a bit of a retracement towards, you know, 48 and a half, like I just said, and then maybe come back upwards again. I just think it's going to be a normal continuation from here. So obviously we'll see what happens, but as far ceteris paribus, as all things being equal and whatnot, and as we continue, I think I want to aim for 60 cent, 58 cent, this sort of area. But as I'm saying that, it's like, okay, we've been in an uptrend the entire time, you know, since 1st of May. And this, obviously, it's syrup. It's not like it's just a singular token which has been around for ages and ages and ages, and it's just has cemented itself in crypto. It's definitely a coin which is continuing to grow, as obviously we have talked about it many times, and we work with them. You know, it's going to continue to grow. So I don't think 60 cents should be the limit. I think if we continue this uptrend, which we are basically doing now with this candle, continuing above 48 cents, what's the point of not aiming for highs? So again, we could continue towards 66 cents, but I think it depends on how long you want to play it for. If you were to trade, obviously not financial advice, but you know, I think for a relative not difficult area, but a relative area, I think it's 60 cents. But I think we're going to aim for highs anyway. I think we're continuing upwards regardless for syrup. So obviously we'll see how it goes. Let me read the chat though. Here we go. All right, so the stream was unlisted. Brilliant, yeah. Brilliant, okay. So nobody, okay, right. So no one's been notifying YouTube at all. Okay, that's great. That's okay, that's fine. I mean, I'm not as awake today. I'm tired today. So you know, the energy might not be there. So you know, I don't mind if people aren't there. I don't mind. So now we move on to Bitcoin. Do you know what? I need to hide some of this. Oh yeah, I can. There we go. I think I was just talking about this down here. Obviously, we were talking about the rest of the resistance and whether I mean, I think my confidence, I definitely, obviously, Ethereum continued to have that down move. Obviously, we've hit our support area now. Solana, obviously, we did have that retracement. We were talking, I think we were talking about 204, I think was the high we were talking at. Let's go to actually the 1 hour so we can actually look at it. And then we can see. So we did actually have the resistance continuation from here after taking out this high, which is very good for Bitcoin. I mean, if you're depending on if you're bullish or bearish, obviously, but continuation downwards until hitting this last candle before this massive move upwards, and then finding support this area, and then taking out all this from basically 8 a.m. Wednesday, basically when we were doing our stream yesterday. Obviously taking this, and then now we have started to print above this area and fulfill all this. So it looks like we are back into this move back upwards again after taking all this. And again, even if you look at it on this time, yes, to be fair, I mean, this, it's like, okay, if we look at what the actual flow was, it's hard. I know it's hard. I have so much on the screen. I need to do this. You know what? Before Saturday, I promise. You can see it on the right. Actually, let me bring that back upwards. On the right, there's so many things I have drawn. I need to delete it all. Before Saturday, I promise I'm going to delete it all and redo it because it's just too much. I've just got so much old stuff I've drawn, which, you know, I just don't need to have on the screen. But anyway, so I'll see what we had. So again, where have we been coming from? I'll go to 4 hour here. I want to see what we've been doing. So again, we kind of saw this on the daily. We have been in this downtrend. If we really look at it, it's like, okay, up until this move we had, we were still in this kind of downtrend. We hadn't moved past this low, which didn't really matter. I think the main thing for me from this whole move was obviously, I mean, I'm just trying to look at it here. I think it really realistically was this Tuesday move. Again, we haven't technically taken this high or anything, but if you really look at the most significant highs in this, which I guess kind of comes to not personal, but like all these, you have these little mini highs and all this sort of stuff. But if you just really look at the major highs, it's realistically just these three. And then we have this take, and then we have this obviously on the lower time frame support down here. Obviously, we've come down here. We had these like kind of triple low shenanigan thing going on here, taking this, and now we're continuing back upwards, moving past all this as well. So clearly, we've had this, you know, move here. There we go. Let's move that back. So in terms of the flow, if we go on to like a pretty higher time frame relative on the 4 hour here, we have had this start to potential move up here, and not only is it just like, oh yeah, the potential candle bodies, oh yeah, we're potentially moving up, we have printed past this high, and we are potentially starting to do obviously the flow looks different on the 1 hour because again there's more moves, more inter moves here, but even relatively here we are starting this move upwards potentially with this print. We haven't, you know, in terms of the actual proper high of this 119,300, we haven't printed past it, but in terms of the actual bodies and what we're actually doing, we are, well, actually, I mean, we've pretty much printed past it with this move, and then we're starting to kind of move upwards here. So we are starting a bit of a move upwards and continuing back upwards. We did have this on the way down. We haven't done such in terms of a coming past 116,500 or anything like that. Obviously, this being the area or near the area of wherever it is down here. Oh, actually, it's not quite near it, but especially this one anyway. But regardless, we haven't obviously come past this, so we didn't do a significant low or anything like that. So obviously we have, you know, missed that move. Obviously we had a pretty good support here actually, but we've missed that move. We have started this kind of potential move upwards. So in terms of retracements and what could be resistance, we did definitely have this area. Obviously we did kind of come to the midpoint, so we could potentially continue to fill this and maybe have a bit of a move down and a bit of a, not resistance, but a bit of a move down to maybe form a new higher low in this inter move we're having on the 1 hour. We did have a bit of a shimmy. Here. Obviously, we kind of moved down again, moved upwards, and now we're starting to kind of fulfill the rest of what this down move was until we aim for highs and continue on upwards. Potentially, obviously not financial advice. In terms of, I think this is I call this a dried cow on Tuesday or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly what I said on Tuesday, but I didn't really believe there would be much left in this whole move. Again, it was a pretty rapid move downwards, big displacement coming from basically 120. Obviously, we did have that area. I don't know. Yeah, we talked about this area when it was happening. Coming from this area, obviously a big move downwards. So again, this was definitely going to be a significant area. Obviously, we did come to midpoint. So I don't think there's going to be really much left. Again, there will probably be highs here. Considering we've had this high and then this massive move down, I'm not saying there won't be resistance here, but I definitely think from what we have, I think we can continue to fill this. Again, this probably sits on, actually no, it doesn't really sit. Again, you can't really see it much here, but on the 1 hour anyway, we definitely have a bit of a, we do have a bit of it left. I'm trying to see if there's anything on the high time, like on the 4 hour relative to this move in terms of there actually being resistance here. But no, it was just basically the 1 hour with this actual gap here. So as we continue to fill this on the way upwards, I do think, again, especially within here, about 119, 800, I would expect a bit more resistance here. Or an area where we could probably retrace a bit. I'm not saying we retrace. I don't necessarily say we retrace, oh yeah, to 116 and all this sort of stuff. But I think there definitely would be a bit of resistance here. Basically, just a new high, and that's realistically what it is. It's like it's not a fearful thing of, oh yeah, oh it's negative here. This is a new high we're going to dump from here. But it's more so just a map of how a normal price action moves anyway, in terms of where highs are, where lows are in this move upwards. So in this case, instead of us being in like price discovery or anything like that, we actually have price action to pay attention to, which obviously is this previous left area, which is this kind of whole resistance area. So it's not so much of a scenario where we're going to see resistance here and dump all the way past here to 116. It's more of an area where it probably signifies where the next high roughly could be, which is sitting between 119,800, kind of. You know, so I think we'll probably see a bit of resistance there as we continue upwards. I think we probably see support and just do a new high. I haven't actually been on the 50-minute in a while on Bitcoin, to be fair, but I think that's kind of what we're doing right now. I do still think we're continuing upwards. Again, we have had this kind of low, and then obviously resistance, and then we took this low, and now we're coming upwards. Obviously, if you look at chart patterns or whatever, kind of double low thing going on. But I think regardless of chart patterns, the actual price action with this support, with these lows, with this wick past them, with this start to move back upwards, which orchestrates, it kind of orchestrates a reversal. It's kind of like, okay, cool, we've taken these lows, and now we're going to start to be in a move upwards. Because even this is like relative. I mean, to be fair, actually, we did have a massive move upwards from here. But if you look at the two prints, we did have a bit of response, but it definitely could have been a lot worse. Like this whole move coming from this resistance area, having this massive displacement downwards. If we had a small print down here on 9 a.m., like this would have been a massive resistance area. I definitely would have thought this could have continued as downwards. Again, this was very strong support, to be fair. This has been a really strong support in this whole kind of Wednesday, pretty much the entirety of Wednesday. Basically from the afternoon of Wednesday onwards, like this whole area has been massive support in this kind of 117, 357 area. Obviously then continue past it. This obviously allowed us to continue to have a massive move upwards, which was very nice, a good sign for us, because again, if this was a larger area, I could have expected this to be a bit more resistance. This could have been a lot harder to get above, a lot harder to continue upwards and try to be in an uptrend. I think it would have continued us a bit lower towards 116, but also we didn't do that. So if we look at it here, like it's a lot easier. Again, we came to midpoint, we came back down, but from this position, again, we had another kind of massive displacement and obviously found support within this area and continue back upwards in this whole trend upwards. So it allowed us to start move up. So obviously the MVP of this move, Thursday 9 a.m. Shout out to Thursday 9 a.m. Really allowed us to continue upwards. But obviously now getting onto it. Resistance here, I reckon so. Support, probably within this area, a high or low, whatever. I don't think this is going to spur us into a massive move downwards. I think we could be on the way upwards. Again, if you take this into account of how this could move, it would mean, obviously I'm not saying this does happen, it would mean you'd come back up to pretty much the initial point of where you came to, or where you came from, which is this 120 area, in this whole kind of seeing these two lows and then coming right back upwards. So I think we could see that. I don't think, I mean, obviously I said this last time with this, it's a dried out cow, we're not going to see resistance here, and obviously we saw resistance here and we came to support, but obviously it wasn't all bad. You know, even though we did see massive resistance, it didn't mean we broke out of this potential move in terms of us putting past this high, now doing a higher low, and now we're in our move where we've, even though this is kind of a smaller low, this obviously MVP, like I said, Thursday 9 a.m. Shout out to Thursday 9 a.m. Moving us upwards, and obviously could potentially having the potential within this print to continue upwards, putting past this area and hopefully pushing back upwards. I think we see resistance here. I think we come down, but again, if we want to target it, I definitely think this high is going to see difficulty. I think we're nearing the area, regardless of it be 198 or 122. I do think there's going to be resistance. But obviously this brings us back onto this area, which is obviously we've hit this midpoint, but there's definitely going to be still some more resistance here. So even if we did edge up to hit this area, I would still think there'd be resistance there. So in terms of that 121 area, so I think there's quite a bit above us. To be fair, there is quite a bit above us in terms of areas where we could have quite a bit of sell at, or areas where we could move back downwards in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of breaking us out of this move. So I think personally, if we kind of weigh up the obviously angel and devil type of thing, where we weigh up what's above us, weigh up what's below us, realistically, there's not really. I'm going to go on a hard time for this, on like maybe the 4 hour, just to see. It's not beautiful, you know. It's not really beautiful. On the 1 hour, there are potential areas. I mean, potential for this candle especially, in terms of we have this candle as well as potential in terms of we had this move down, last candle, move upwards, came back into it, support here. Engulf. This is probably support as well. Actually, now that I'm looking at kind of my candle, we had this move down, we had this move up. This is now going to be a resultant from this. So I definitely think we are in this move up, could be stacking a bit of support here going on, but I don't necessarily think it's I don't really. I mean, it might not be particularly strong, but I think we do potentially have a bit of support as we move upwards. But I mean, this is inter-trend stuff. This isn't realistically a reversal point. So realistically, it would be sitting more in this area with this last low, which sits at this wick here. So it's kind of it's not really, that's not realistically support now. You know, as I'm looking at it, but it does look like it is. I mean, maybe on the 50-minute, if we look at it, we could probably see, especially like obviously, like I was just saying, in these last moves before we move upwards, obviously coming back into these areas. As I was talking about here, there we go. In terms of having these last candles before this move upwards, obviously finding resistance here as we continue downwards, finding support here. This candle is now going to be support as well as we continue onwards in this move upwards, obviously taking us past this. Not slowing down per se, but again, definitely. Actually, to be fair, no. We have had that print pass, so we are continuing upwards. I think I'm not that I'm having difficulty on the 1 hour, but it's definitely been, you know, a bit wicky and whatnot. And obviously on my past streams, I have looked at the 50-minute. I think it's going to be easier for me to look at the 50-minute in this scenario anyway, because this is relative to this whole move. You know, similar in this scenario. Kind of anyway, but this is obviously a high time frame resistance. It's probably easier for us to look at it here, like I was talking about, where we can continue downwards. Obviously we had many areas, and on the 50-minute, it's not as aggressive as it looks on the 1 hour. On the 1 hour, this entire area is just a massive move downwards. But realistically, if we kind of look at it, there's only really this area, which obviously we kind of came to with here. There's nothing really here. I mean, there's potential for this candle to be potential resistance, which we may have came to in this area. But apart from that, there's not really much above us. Like I was saying, I think what I could probably look at here, this is probably the delineation. I think this is where the delineation occurs, where instead of there, if we look at it on the 50-minute, as it stacks up, it's more of like there's multiple candles which make up this entire move. So in terms of the 1 hour having this entire potential resistance area, the 50-minute makes up these mini moves, like this area here, this area. Obviously this area we kind of came into, so we still had outstanding here. We had this main area here. So for example, if we come to it, we had obviously this high, which resulted from this retracement, which came into this massive resistance area and had a massive dump from it. This was clearly going to be a very strong high in terms of if we took it. Obviously, we probably would result in a decent retracement back downwards or expansion downwards, whatever, which obviously we did have that here. There was still outstanding. Again, if we look at the gap here, we still came above it and fulfilled this rest of this, pretty much nearly to the wick there. But then if we realistically, and this is where the delineation is, I think, for me, between this move and the current move we've had, where we actually have this outstanding move, which we haven't come into, which obviously, if we look backwards, it's very hard to see. I do apologize. I'm gonna try and there we go, draw this. So if we come to here, exactly, this is kind of, I think this is where the delineation was. So in terms of why I wasn't sure on the 1 hour, I think it's a lot better to look at on the 50-minute, where, okay, obviously in this case we had this massive wick upwards which fulfilled this gap, and then didn't have really much of a big retracement. Obviously we had this tiny wick above it, which obviously also resulted in us filling the rest of this kind of gap. So I think this is where the delineation is. I know I've said that 15 million times, but in terms of on the 1 hour on the last move, where I wasn't too sure if we moved up, I probably should have moved to the 50-minute here, because I would have seen this final, so there's ambulance outside, this final move, which fulfilled this. Obviously from there, again, now we really don't have anything apart from this high. There's nothing here I would be worried about us seeing resistance. So that's kind of what I want to shimmy onto now, or kind of take focus on in terms of where's our next area. Well, this gap's already been used. We can see we fulfilled this with this move as we continue downwards. This is what happens when you have normal price action, where there's not like this, you know, massive wick. There's no, these two green candles, there's no gap here. We've already fulfilled up this. There's nothing here. There's nothing in this gap. There's no gap here. We've already used this. No gap here. There's no gap here. We formed this gap, and we came back upwards, which obviously this is what formed this move on the 1 hour. We formed this gap, came back up into it, and then continued downwards. Obviously from this case, we formed this, which we actually broke away from and continued onwards, which then we kind of retraced back upwards into this area, formed this high, which had this massive low, wick past it, massive move downwards. Obviously in this case, we had that 4 hour, I think it was 4 hour, 1 hour, massive order block we've had, and obviously we've had this reversal we've had and whatnot. But the main point I'm talking about here is within this move. And again, like I said, there's not really anything of resistance in this move on the 15-minute, because again, on the 1 hour, yes, I mean, there is this move, and I'm not saying there won't be anything in this move, but I think, you know, price is fractal, you know, multiple candles make up the 1 hour. On the 50-minute, there's multiple candles. There are 4 candles make up the 1 hour. So it's like there's multiple stacks of 50 minutes which make up these triple, you know, it's like 12 candles or whatever it will be, or obviously including actually this last candle and these two. So what's that, 6? So obviously a lot more 50-minute candles. So I think even though you can have 50-minute, you know, 2 candles can go down, one can have a massive move upwards, and then that last candle can have that massive move down, that could result in this 1 hour candle being this just massive downwards candle, which looks like it's just this massive displacement. On the 50-minute, we've actually had a normal downtrend. But obviously in this case, this was different. Obviously, this case, you can really see, and this is obviously where the difference, I think, lies as well, with in terms of these small candles, these wicks, and in this case, where we just have these massive candle bodies, where on the 50-minute, clearly you can see, we do have these outstanding gaps on the continuation. So I think my confidence in there being much more resistance here, if we realistically look at it on the 50-minute, I don't think there's much resistance. I think we continue upwards. This just looks like a normal downtrend, as opposed to this massive area, which had a massive move down, massive move here, and this slightly big move here. There's nothing like that on this gap. So I don't think we're going to see much more resistance, apart from obviously some of these highs and some of these areas obviously we saw coming from these areas. I do think I don't really realistically see much resistance. Obviously there is this high. I do think we will have resistance there, but we do have support below us on the 15-minute regardless. I do think we could maybe continue back upwards for Bitcoin. I don't know if I'm being too positive here. I don't know if I'm being too blinded by positivity or anything like that. But obviously, as we consider it, it's like, yes, we did have this high area and we did come down. But I think in this case, it kind of looks like we just had these consistent highs, which we took as well. And obviously, if we kind of look backwards, we didn't. I mean, again, to be fair, we didn't have anything. There wasn't anything here. It was mainly just looking at these highs and then continuing downwards. And obviously, this is where the delineation is as well. It's like we did have this major gap, which actually resulted in this coming down. So this is where I think the delineation is, where there's not just this these random 3 candles have occurred, and this massive resistance area is here, and we are definitely going to see resistance here. It's not really, I don't think it's really like that. I think, yes, there will be highs here. You know, there are definitely going to be highs here, which we will, you know, continue to take as we move back upwards. But I don't think it's going to be as strong as we've continued to be. Like in this case, we've already taken from this high, which had this massive move down. We already took this and we already found support in this gap. Obviously, we had this support here as well. We obviously had 50-minute gap here, so we have support down here. Same thing here. We have formed a pretty big move upwards, and we have this gap here. So again, more support here. Even if we do start to move downwards, I do still think it will still prop us upwards, still stay here as we continue back upwards. So I'm probably going to start to try and end it here. I know I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, but I do think we are going to continue to, even regardless of what it looks like on 1 hour, even though it looks like there's resistance, I do think that, like we've looked at with this move, I do still think we could continue back upwards. And I think sometimes when there's an occurrence where we come to the midpoint and see resistance and dump, whereas there's for example, this case, this is when we had this resistance here, where we had this wick, but other than that, we don't have anything. So obviously, this is where the delineation is, where we've come to the midpoint and found resistance versus filling the entire thing and finding resistance. So I don't think there's anything left. I think we can continue upwards. Maybe try to aim for the highs again. You know what I mean? Again, I'm trying to look at. There's nothing outstanding here apart from this high, and then from there, I mean, there's definitely resistance back here. There's definitely resistance in these highs. I don't think this move is going to occur where we're going to see 125k. I really don't think like that in the slightest. I just think this is maybe not a temporary uptrend. Obviously, every move is temporary, depending on what time frame you're on, technically. But I think this isn't a long-term uptrend. I don't think this has started anything. I just think we're moving upwards until we hit that point, which obviously I think is just going to be these relative highs up here. You know, if we just look at it on like the 1 hour and whatnot, yes, we have taken this high. I think it's just going to be these highs majoritively as we continue upwards, and then realistically from there, I think we continue back downwards. And again, I already have my longer term. I'm a monster. I know I'm not. I've got so many groups of crap I just need to get rid of. But whatever. And I've already talked about this whole thing. I still think we come deeper. I don't think we are. I don't think we're in the potential for this whole move upwards. Again, we actually do have this massive wick here, which I think will probably also continue to be resistance as we proceed onwards. I think we do need a major retracement. But again, this is on the daily. This will take some time to do. I do still think we need that major resistance, or that major retracement, sorry, towards this 114 area. So again, time will tell. But yeah, we will see. Ethereum, let's have a look. So Ethereum, we have had that move down, and now we have a move up. So it's like it's balanced the books pretty much in this case. So what I looked back at was this last candle before this. I'm gonna delete this actually. I don't need this gap. I've just full screen the entire thing. Whoops. So what I was looking at again, we were kind of looking Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so we were looking here. We were looking at Tuesday. It was about here, let's say, is in this candle. So what I was talking about was us retracing back up. It's very messy. I know. We have this massive candle, which is resistance. We have this midpoint, and then we had this area at about 3744. And what I was talking about last stream on Tuesday was this 3744 price, which we pretty much came to. You know, obviously we had some wicks, yes, but for the majority, we came to this area. And what I was talking about here is continuing this downtrend. Obviously, we took this low, we've continued downwards, and so on and so forth as we continue downwards. So again, we can delete that as we've continued downwards. That was just a temporary retracement. But in this case, what do we have? Well, actually, we found support in this massive area. Last candle before that, we've started to move upwards in terms of this massive move, which resulted in us coming up with these candles and then starting a higher low and coming back into this support area, which also formed more support here. Obviously, we came into this as a kind of last block here. There we go. So you can see we formed this, found support in it, found support last time as well, but we've come even deeper and basically came to the midpoint about 3,500-ish within that area. We found 517, found support here, and then that's kind of allowed us to reverse and come back upwards. And now we're right back to where we were in terms of this last area of resistance at this this midpoint of where we came to, or where we've come from. We're basically in the exact same price point we were at when we were looking on Tuesday, pretty much. I mean, obviously we were here, we were free for $30 off. You know, this is the last thing we already talked about. So in this case, what am I going to be looking at? Well, balance between what is of difficulty above us and versus below us. Well, we had a massive pump, and after we printed past this candle with these candles and retraced. Actually, very interested to see what happened on the 15-minute here. Well, we kind of had these lows, which we took and then pumped. A massive pump, to be fair. I mean, really massive pump there, to be fair. I mean, I wouldn't consider this being a massive... there's massive lows here. We're definitely going to see anything here. We just kind of took them and then had a massive pump. Obviously, which resulted us in this tiny little move past the last high from this, which obviously we came past and then had a massive dump. But again, this is the difference. If we did the same what we had, shout out to Thursday 9 AM, obviously what we had on Bitcoin in terms of them not having that pump. If we didn't have that, I think we would have been continuing downwards. Same thing with Ethereum is we had this massive expansion upwards, which allowed us to retrace back into it here and then continue back upwards. And obviously has allowed us to continue this uptrend because of this massive displacement, which has outstanding orders as we continue upwards with massive buy areas as we retrace. Boom, there you go. Same thing here. We are still at resistance. And again, this is kind of the same thing is order block, the last up close before we've had this move downwards, and I think this is also where the two-phased kind of definition could be. Also, we've moved past this high in terms of we've taken this high and had a response and a retracement from it. So if we to draw this, let's say we have had this midpoint visit, if you will. There we go, which also kind of lies right on top of. Let me make that a bit better. There we go. There we go. Obviously, pretty much lies directly on top of this longer term 1 hour order book we have as well. So we formed this massive candle from this move, had a massive kind of engulfed it, retracement, obviously came to support, has had a pretty strong retracement back upwards, especially in this area, about 3,700 exactly. But in each of these moves, we've had these wicks kind of come back down, especially in this one. I don't think there's much support there. We've come to the resistance and now we're starting to move down again. So we have a failed swing, if you will. We've failed to do this high. Obviously, in terms of the major low, this is definitely the major low. On the 50-minute anyway, this is the major low. I think for me, it seems that Ethereum's come right back to the price we were already talking about. I think it's a bit foolish, if you will, to talk exactly about what we've already talked about in terms of us. We've already looked at this. What's very interesting though is it's starting to look like we've had this this kind of reversal. We've had this downtrend, massive move upwards. If we retrace back down into this area, it looks like what could be a bit of a reverse on the 1 hour. Obviously, you know, if someone uses top patterns, then obviously we've got the hidden orders. You know, the hidden orders here, we're gonna do this, and the hidden orders. You know, obviously someone. I'm not. You know, I'm not saying anything against chart patterns. You know, I'm not saying anything, but you know. It's opinion. Anyway, but again, I think the difference between that and what you can see on other ones where we have these massive expansions upwards in this case, which result in these massive candles which form support. I think in this case, what is there of support which would result in that move? I think if we look at retracement, again, if we're in this uptrend and look at retracement, which what we could be doing, again, I'm not saying the 15-minute strong, because the last time I looked at 15-minute on Ethereum and looked at reversal, it wasn't right. So in this case, I obviously want to pay attention to this. And I think in this case, it's like, yes, we do potentially have this outstanding area, which we haven't really come back into. Obviously, we had this candle, but from there, this entire area, where the kind of generalized area is within this kind of gap here with this. So I do think it would kind of result in maybe about 3,600, 3,575 kind of area if we were to retrace and have a move back upwards. And again, if we really look at it on the 1 hour, look at the flow on the 1 hour, the significant low here is 3,500. So even though, yes, we can print past, and this is where the thing is, it's like, it's all nuanced. It's like, in this case, yes, we have had this print past here, but the idea is between printing past with the candle body and printing past with wicks, it's like, it's not really, it's more secured. If we actually physically came past 3,500 and printed, that's heavy confirmation that we're just continuing downwards. But I mean, you can try and gauge, if we print past 3,680, you can gauge, okay, well, we might start to be in a downtrend here, but it's only temporary. In this case, a temporary downtrend, if you go to the 50-minute, will be a downtrend. Temporary downtrend towards this area, and potentially could have that that higher low, which forms this reversal, and maybe move back upwards for Ethereum. Obviously, that's theoretical. That's a bit more of a thing I want to watch. I don't think that's going to happen in the next two seconds or whatever. Obviously, Thursday, Friday. Obviously, Friday I'm not streaming, but Saturday I will be streaming. So I'm interested to keep that in the back of my mind to see if we can do that. But I'm still gonna stick with Ethereum here on the 15-minute. So we're still continuing downwards. Nothing here. Potential for a bit of support down here, maybe 3,700 pretty much. But I think if we are on this retracement, I mean, we might have already had it on the 15 minutes, to be fair. It's like, yes, we actually hit this area exactly in terms of the optimum area. We came to this support. Again, this is the main area, but the general idea is, this is the main area, but the general idea is until you see, once you see yourself come past equilibrium, you want to then watch to see if price is going to reverse. And obviously, we'll probably go to the 5-minute in this case and see if there's reversal and whatnot. Obviously, we have all these areas here. Obviously, once price starts to print back upwards, if we go to even the 1 minute, maybe we can start to watch it. Here it is in this case, where it's like have this normal downtrend, no highs or lows or anything like that. And then once we see that, we go, okay, cool. Well, we print another gap here. Once you see this move upwards towards here, printing past this, I would want to obviously watch for a retracement. And in this case, if I was to trade it, obviously not financial advice in the slightest, it would be obviously aiming for roughly the midpoint, let's say, obviously stop to the low, and then continuing upwards towards the high. In this case, probably sitting around there for this major high. Obviously, you could put it there, but obviously I wouldn't put it there. I'd put it for this major high. Obviously, nuance and whatnot. So that would be the reversal on the 1 minute, for example. Obviously, just to kind of give an example of what it would look like. So that's kind of the scenario where it's more so a thing where you're watching for. I'm gonna do this now, actually. So you're not really watching for, okay, we've hit this random 0.62 area. I think this is where the nuance comes in. It's like, obviously a lot of people use certain we have certain TA methods or whatever, where let's say it's a fib retracement or whatever, and they stick to gospel about these specific values, and it's not so much. I think where people have that nuance go wrong is where it's not so much where you watch the specific prices on the fib retracement. I think it's more of a rule of thumb where if you have a certain retracement and you come to these certain areas, you don't just blindly follow each area. And that's why it's like whenever I look at prices, like I could always just go draw random things and go, okay, yeah, this is definitely where we're going to retrace to. But I think if you're just going to use something which draws something on top of price and doesn't directly get drawn influenced by price, then I think you're definitely going to have to look at it in nuance and look at it in terms of if you're going to reverse there and watch price to see if it reverses. Because in this case, for example, like this is the same thing as a fib retracement. It's like you come from the low to the high equilibrium. It's not so much where, okay, I know at this arbitrary 0.5 value or 0.62, we're gonna long here. It's something where you want to watch it on the lower time frame. Obviously, in this case, on the 50-minute, you want to go low, like 1 minute, 5 minute, whatever. But in this case, it's like, you want to watch it and see if we reverse and then respond from it. It's not so much you can just follow it blindly. But obviously this is the case we've had. So I think in this case, obviously we've had this move upwards. On the 1 minute, obviously targeting these kind of equal highs here and this whole high area. We just about shimmy past this area. Obviously coming to the kind of this area as well for resistance in this kind of gap here. Tiny gap you can see on the top left. You can't really see it, to be fair. And now we can see on the 1 minute anyway, we've started to have that reversal. 50 minute, we obviously haven't had that reversal because we've just started it. And on the 1 minute, I wouldn't take 1 minute as gospel. Again, 1 minute's very fast moving. But the 1 hour, again, we haven't had that supreme low. The supreme low is 3,500. In terms of starting this, I do think if we start to print past 3,700, I would watch to see if we could continue downwards again and again. But I think 50 minute, regardless, I think we are having that retracement. So I think for me, it would be this the recent low to the recent high. This sits within this area, and again, we just talked about this area in terms of sitting around this 3692 area. So I do think we could potentially see that, but obviously, again, we haven't done a new high. So in an uptrend, you want to do a new high and then retrace to a higher low. So it's not. It's a failed swing. You know, it's not so much where, okay, since we haven't come over 3,770, we are definitely going to come down. And also bear in mind, you know, it's like you have to take context to this. We have this resistance. And if we go to the 1 hour, we have this resistance, this main resistance we've had for a while now. We've come to this midpoint already and come down. So it's like, I want to say we're going to come to 3,700 and then pump continuously. But it seems that we've already come to resistance on both 50 minute and the 1 hour. And we're starting to reverse. And there's not really too much support apart from 3,700. I could definitely see us starting to retrace a bit deeper for Ethereum and continue downwards. But again, nuance as well. It's like if we could potentially have that that reversal kind of pattern, if you will, where we have this this move past these highs and then continue downwards. If we see a higher low here and continue back upwards, then I could definitely see us start to break up above some highs again. But until then, it's like realistically. If we really look, if we don't consider this the high, if we look at this high, this low, this high, this low, we haven't come past this high. We haven't printed. So as we continue it, especially on the 4 hour, it's like we haven't done anything. And if we try and look at the flow, if we go higher and higher, like the 4 hour, where it's not the daily, where we can't really see what's going on, but on the 4 hour, it's like we can clearly see we've had this major high, major low, major high, major low. We haven't printed past this major high. We've wicked past it. Yeah, we've definitely taken it by wicking, but we haven't printed or anything like that. And we've had these massive wicks as well. So I do definitely think we could continue back downwards. At all things equal, all things being the same as we see it right now, I do definitely see ourselves continuing back downwards for Ethereum, but I don't really think... you know, I would want to watch it. I would want to watch it to see if we come to 3,500. Again, I'm giving a bit, you know, opposing TA here, obviously with Ethereum and whatnot. But I think the difference is, it's like, it's all nuance. I think, like, I say, oh yeah, well, I want to see what Bitcoin does, and if the Bitcoin does this, then everything might follow suit. But I don't really think that's true to say. It's like, you know, if Bitcoin's, you know, Bitcoin going up doesn't necessarily mean everything goes up, because we just saw that it came to 123, nothing was really pumping. Ethereum came to 3,800, nothing was pumping. Solana came to 204, nothing was pumping. So or nothing else. So again, it's a flow. It's not necessarily everything has to follow each other. So I can confidently say, well, not confidently say, again, not financial advice, but I think Bitcoin could be coming upwards. Ethereum could potentially be showing signs of maybe coming downwards. And then obviously we'll see. Again, yeah, we'll see. We'll go to Solana now, though. I do want to see what's going on Solana. So again, this is very similar. What we talked about? We talked about this area. We talked about this area. In terms of, I was talking about 190, and I was talking about potentially as deep as 186. Obviously, we came even deeper to 180, and we filled the entire thing. And we had this last candle before the move upwards, which is this order block, which actually we wicked to the midpoint. So really deep for Solana, actually, really, really deep. Fulfilled the entire thing. And we haven't printed anything. We're still in this downtrend. Obviously, I can probably delete this retracement now, because again, we've had it, you know, we've been had it. We'll go to the 4 hour quickly. I just want to see, we haven't printed past any significant lows. I know these charts are messy. I do apologize. I could probably even hide it, actually. So we can actually see it a bit better. In terms of a significant low, it's majority within here, potentially even within about 177. We haven't printed past that. We just had a massive wick, and we're starting to kind of edge back upwards again. Significant difficulty. Definitely have a bit of resistance here, but I think, you know, technically, as the uptrend goes, well, okay, well, you know, I'll give nuance to back here in a second. I'll go to the daily. excuse me, the daily. But we're still in the uptrend. We haven't printed past anything, so we do still want to maybe target highs and still continue onwards. But obviously, I'm going to go to the daily really swiftly to actually give a bit more context. So we have all these highs. So I think on the way up, we have this to focus on at 220. Again, I was talking about 220 as well to focus on. I was saying on Tuesday, well, I think we could either take these highs. I want to aim, my main aim was 220. And I was saying we could definitely see difficulty at 205, 206, or whatever this exact area is, as we come into this optimum area. I do want to see us retrace a bit into this area to find a bit of support. Obviously, you can see on the daily here, we have had that kind of recovery, and we don't really have much resistance on the daily on the way up anyway. So I do think, you know, we've definitely had a bit of a retracement here. And then we could definitely continue upwards. So I think for me, we've come past, you know, a bit of these highs. We do have this major high here. We've definitely come past these two highs. I'm going to delete these actually. And now we've had a bit of retracement, obviously coming into this major gap area, fulfilling this. Obviously on the 1 hour, we have this support area, which we've come to as well. I think we could maybe continue back upwards for Solana. Again, this is the difference in it, and this is where it gets interesting because things are starting to break away from each other. Obviously, we've talked about the market phases and Bitcoin to Ethereum to Solana to altcoins and all this sort of stuff. So I think I think in this period especially, it's very easy to talk about you know, things like coins and anything pretty much between moving differently from each other. Obviously, you normally see some sort of similarities in the market, but in this case especially, I think seeing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana move separately and move in different scenarios is more than fine. It is fine to see. You know, I think this makes perfect sense to do. So I think for me to say, I think Solana has had a decent retracement. Again, we've had about a 13% retracement for Solana, so pretty good. Again, obviously we've had these nice moves upwards. I do think we continue upwards. We haven't broken below anything significant. Again, same with as we've seen with you know, Ethereum 1. I feel it's at a 4 hour as well. It's like, you know, we haven't done anything concerning until we maybe print past 181. If we print past 181, that's concerning, but we haven't done that. And again, we've already started a bit of retracement. You know, we've already started to see ourselves kind of start to come back upwards and probably start to come back into this monster of a move here with this 200-ish area. Again, if I kind of want to shimmy to the 15-minute here just to see, still in this uptrend. Again, still coming past these highs, higher low, higher high, still moving pretty nice. Again, I think the lower time frame you go, the more structured things move, the more kind of thingy. I had the same regimented, I suppose. We have equal highs here, which I definitely think we want to target. But I think on the way up, again, this is the thing. It's like, I think we have this. We've taken this low, we have this low, we have this move upwards, and now we're starting to try and move upwards. We have been in an uptrend, we have printed past these highs and lows. I think to really confirm it a bit stronger, I definitely want to see a print past 191. And we have these equal highs here. I do definitely think we could definitely want to target these, you know. It looks like so far we have printed a bit of a gap here. As we've continued upwards, we've found this support, we have this. It looks like we're starting to, even though we've done what seems to be a higher low, we also actually kind of have some equal highs here as well, which we could want to take. So we could potentially see a bit of a kind of move like this or something like that. But I think I still want to watch price to target these highs. Again, these are pretty much equal highs here. Really, really tight here. This is definitely going to be a very high interest area for Solana to want to target, I think. But obviously, if we can print past this again on the 50-minute and come past this and then come down again, that would start to form us into an even higher high here and continue this uptrend. So I think Solana, even on the 50-minute, is starting this uptrend. Again, we haven't really seen this on the 1 hour yet. Again, we're still trying to do this. As we can see with these obviously gaps, we've just kind of retraced into this and start to come downwards and just kind of start this entire move. Obviously, we had this last... here we go. We have this last move before this. We're seeing a bit of resistance. Again, I'm not saying it is going to be resistance. Obviously, you kind of took these equal highs in this move and had the last candle before this down move, which has a bit of resistance. Again, we kind of came into it, came down, bit of resistance at this top point. So again, you know, we do have a bit of resistance. I don't think it's going to hold or anything like that. I don't think it's going to be super strong. But apart from that, I mean, until we start, and on the 50 minutes, 191, until we start printing past maybe 191 again, even. I think regards to 50-minute, 1 hour, if we start that print past on the 1 hour, on the 50-minute, whatever, if we can continue that uptrend, I think we could start this moving upwards, back up towards these areas, definitely. And it looks like we could potentially start doing that on, you know, 50 minutes. But again, this is again reiterating the same point of the difference in prices. Again, Bitcoin's coming upwards from a period of retracement. Ethereum's also doing the same thing where we've had that retracement and we're coming upwards. But we've already had that move upwards and now we're starting to potentially move downwards. Bitcoin's still coming upwards. Solana's case, we've had this move upwards, but in Solana's case, it's been a lot later. Again, obviously, as the market flow goes to Bitcoin first, then it goes to Solana, or Ethereum, then Solana. So it's definitely been a lot later. So I think it kind of makes sense why we haven't seen a massive move back upwards again and then had a big retracement or anything like that. I think we've only just started this move upwards, and I think there's definitely a difference in the market between Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. So yeah, I think from what it looks like, I'm not negative. We haven't really done anything significant to print past anything and see a massive downtrend. Again, you know, on Solana, yes, we have come past these lows. We have come past this whole move downwards. We have had a massive retracement. Or not massive retracement. We have had a massive downtrend, I should say. We do have resistance in these 195 areas, you know, in these 200 areas. But I do think from what I can see as we have, I think we are definitely going to start trying to get back up towards this area as we retrace into this and potentially come back upwards and obviously continue back upwards towards these high areas. And again, to finalize and reiterate, because we have about 4 minutes left, to reiterate my targets for Solana now, I still want to look at 220. I still want to see if we can get to that area. I think there's different things, or there's different ways of looking at the market. It's like you have targets, you have reasons. I think the main thing to focus on, regardless of your an uptrend, downtrend, whatever you're doing, is the reason why price has done something. I think in this case, the reason why price has come down, again, we're above equilibrium, we're into the area where you want to start to look for, really significantly start to look for shorts if you have that reversal, is because we have come past these highs, really significant. Again, we had this resistance in this area here, we've come back up into it and fulfilled it, and now we've had a massive dump. So these highs, really choppy here, really like wiki, if you will, highs here, definite move from here. And obviously we have this area here in this optimum range. So I do think if we continue this move, which it looks like we could continue to do that potentially, if we fulfill this gap and continue onwards, we do still have resting areas down here which could last quite a while. But I think from there, it's like I think we continue back upwards towards 220 and see what we could do for Solana from there. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. You know what, I'm very proud of myself because I've actually managed to do the stream with time to spare, and this is obviously unheard of. This is unheard of. Okay, I always spend 20 minutes extra and whatnot. I always, you know, speak. But I think today's been pretty good. I think I've you know, given it a good pace. So that's it. I mean, I've got 2 minutes 40 seconds. That's it. I don't have anything else to say. I can probably look at something else. My camera has moved. Let me freeze it quickly. There we go. That's pretty much. That's it. I don't really have anything else to say. I've given my higher price targets for Solana as we continue. I've given what I think on the lower time frames on pretty much everything. I've looked at 50-minute and the 1 hour, 4 hour daily on Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum. I could maybe jump to Syrup and look at the lower time frame because I haven't actually done that. But I wasn't really interested in doing that. I didn't really want to bother looking at that. Oh no, I did. I looked at this trend. Yeah, never mind. Well, yeah. Great. I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to look at. So yeah, I'll do the outro, I guess. I'll give my when I'm streaming next and whatnot. So I'll be back on Saturday. Mike will be back on. I think he does. I know he doesn't do weekend. He might be back tomorrow. All I'll know, I'll be back Saturday. Okay, I'll be back Saturday. I'll do another stream. I'm very interested actually to come back on Saturday because I want to see what Ethereum does. I'm interested in Ethereum because I just kind of want to see how it moves. I've obviously given my opinion. Again, obviously opinions and whatnot, not financial advice. I've obviously given my opinions. So I'm interested to see how this flows and whatnot. But I'm pretty happy so far with how prices move. It's kind of made sense. You know, it's not like we're doing anything crazy. So obviously we will see. I'll try. I've yet to look at Pump or anything like that, but I've kind of just stuck to my main coins really, you know, Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Obviously we're trying to incorporate Syrup because again I did look at Syrup last Wednesday, so it was you know, something to kind of consistently look at for the trend, and I'm very happy with what Syrup's doing. Obviously 51 cent coming from 40 cent, massive pump in Syrup, really great to see. So I still think we can continue to do this at least towards about 60 cent, 58 cents. So I still think we can continue this move. We've had a nice move up on 50-minute normal uptrend, not really anything crazy. So I'm very, you know, very happy so far. So we'll see how syrup goes. I do still think we'll continue upwards. So I think if you were to look at something, obviously not financial advice, what would I, for the last 30 seconds, what would I take away? Syrup, continue up, is what I'd say. Bitcoin, I think we could maybe edge up a tiny bit more. I do still think there's quite a bit of resistance above us. I don't think we'll go up much more. I think I've already talked about my targets or my main resistance areas and whatnot. So continue up a bit more. Ethereum, I'm hesitant on a bit more up. We've hit the resistance we've had on the 1 hour. We've formed resistance on the 15-minute. We're starting to come down already. It makes sense for us to have a bit of a retracement. So I could see a bit of retracement for Ethereum potentially. Solana, obviously. We've had that big retracement. I still think we could come back upwards towards 220. That's kind of my main target anyway on the higher time frame. I'm also looking at 191. I want to see us get towards 191 and continue upwards. But we do have quite a bit of resistance, especially on the 15-minute-ish, maybe 1 hour. I'm not too sure. I think 1 hour actually, yeah, as well. We have formed quite a bit of sell on the way down, or potential areas where we could probably sell at and have a bit of a resistant point at, or whatever you want to call it. So I do think Solana might have a bit of difficulty getting back upwards, but I think from what we have on the higher time frame, trend, it is still bullish. We haven't done anything significant on the higher time frames to suggest we are coming downwards. So I still think I'm decently positive on Solana regardless. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, not financial advice or anything like that. I can be wrong. I've been right and I've been wrong. So take that as you will. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you all. Obviously, we had a bit of issue on YouTube with it being unlisted and no one's really come along and people busy and whatnot. So, but I'll be back Saturday no matter what. Even if I had one person watching, I'll be back no matter what. So, thank you so much for watching. I'll be back Saturday. Good stream. Apologies for being unable to join. That's fine. Don't worry. I'll be back Saturday. Doesn't matter. Enjoy. You your friends around and whatnot. So, I'm not going to take you away from that. But again, I'll be back Saturday. And I don't think I've got anything else to say. So thank you all. I'll see you back on Binance. I had the actual chat up on Binance Square. Because obviously, last stream, actually quite a lot of people talking there. I've got it up. No one is really saying anything. So unfortunate. But across all the platforms, across the world, across all the continents, I'm streaming at. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate you all. I'll be back Saturday. Goodbye.
You.